Why can't you call your dog off? Why can't you call him off? Why is he still ripping his arm?
I'm comfortable.
You have no control of your dog whatsoever?
I'm comfortable.
Are you kidding me?
I'm comfortable.
You guys got 3 guys versus 1. You can't get the dog out?
Hey, get back now, right now.
You have no control of your dog whatsoever.
Hey, shut up and get back.
Umbrella. She's up. Whole nother level of shit you can't even understand.
What is good, my people? We are live, back again with another episode of The Forecast. So, in Bakersfield, California, we have this young lady on a hot day decided to ride to the store to pick up her dad something for Father's Day, which is a great thing in itself, as much as we're told how horrible black men are as fathers. This sounds great on paper. Now, she's just a young 19-year-old woman, black woman, living in America, just riding to the store on her bicycle to get her father something from the store. Let's see what could possibly go wrong here.
I was coming back from the Wood and Nickel to get my dad a Father's Day gift. They were closed, it was Sunday, so I decided to turn back around and head home. It was about 103 degrees. I had 3 water bottles in my backpack, and I stopped right behind me, right by the sign, to take a sip, and then I turned around and there were 3 cop cars. And one of the officers already had a gun drawn at me. They asked me, was I inside the store? And I told them no. And then they asked me if I was sure. And I was like, yeah. I turned to another officer who was in front of me, Officer Vasquez. And I told him, I said, sir, what's going on? And then he was like, give me the backpack. And then I was like, do you have a warrant? And then he pointed behind me and he said, look. So I looked behind me and it was a big canine dog. And then I got scared, and then I was like, here, just take the backpack, And then after that, he grabbed me by my wrist like this, and then he grabbed me by my neck, punched me, and then he threw me onto the ground, and then that's when the canine came and started eating at my leg. They rolled me around. Officer Vasquez put his knee in my back, and I told him I couldn't breathe, and then he put his other knee in my head. And I told him, I can't breathe. And then I started yelling out, somebody help me, they're gonna kill me. And then finally, he let me up, he tied my hands behind my back, and then he tied my feet together and he threw me in the back of the car. And on my way going back to the car, I heard somebody say, that's not the guy.
Well, she actually called while she was in the hospital. And I thought she was joking because she was like, Mom, I'm in a hospital, the police beat me, and a dog bit me.
I was like, wow. I'm like, let me talk to the officer. And so the officer got on the phone and I asked him what happened, and he told me that it was mistaken identity. And I'm like, wow. I'm like, is she okay? And he was like, well, she's alive and she's in the hospital.
My daughter is a very responsible young lady. She works, she loves life. There was no reason for this to happen to her.
They never told me why they stopped me, but after they beat me and threw me in the cop car, that's when they explained that there was some guy with a machete that was inside the grocery store, and they were looking for him, and I matched the description.
She's not the same person since that happened. I brought her here the other day because we were looking for the gentleman that even told the officers that that's not the guy, and they still continue to beat her and have the dogs on her after he told them. They ran him back in the store.
I read the paper, my paperwork fell, and it said that I shoved an officer and I flipped him on his back.
They would say that my daughter attacked them. Come on, she's 5'2", 115 pounds soaking wet, and that she attacked a 200-pound man.
There were dogs and guns drawn on me. Like, I would never do anything like that.
Every day I have to change her bandages, and I see the injuries that she has. It's really hard for me.
On Monday, we kind of did our own little investigation. We came to the store, spoke with the manager. He told me that the police had actually caught the guy that had the machetes. And that's what's a shame. I don't know for sure, but the guy probably didn't have a scratch on him.
He still tried to handcuff me and flip me over while the dog was still biting me, and I'm yelling out like, I didn't do anything, I'm a female, like, why are you doing this to me?
Why should my daughter be charged with a crime? All she did was stop to drink some water because it was 100 and something degrees. That's ridiculous.
We gotta find a way not to let this kind of thing happen ever, ever. If a kid can't stop on a bicycle and take a drink of water just to take a break.
She was coming home to celebrate Father's Day with me. It's not right. It's not right.
So here you have this young lady who happens to, quote unquote, fit the description, this vague ass description that they could get a grown ass man confused with a 19-year-old woman. She's still just a teenager. Now they sticking police dogs on her like this 1964 or something. And people say, yeah, we have progression. And I say, yeah, we have progression. Because we have. But at the same time, we really haven't. They still sticking police dogs on our children. When you think about it, in the 1910s and 20s, yeah, black people had to face getting murdered, getting hung, police brutality, racism on all kinds of levels. But at least they had economic infrastructure. At least they had their family units together. At least they spent the money within their own communities. We still facing the same problem because maybe they're not hanging us out on the streets anymore for all to see. Now they're just putting the video out on the internet for everybody to see. Just put it on Facebook instead of on Broad Street. And the difference is now we don't have the black family structure as strong. Our family unit isn't the same as it was back then. Now, the officer that arrested her, who did this to her, Christopher Moore, after he stuck his dog on her and beat the shit out of her at the same time, a young teenage girl, he then arrests her for resisting or delaying an officer and aggravated assault on an officer. Now, while she was taken to the hospital for injuries including abrasions on her face and scrapes and punctures from the K9 engaging on her right thigh, he was busy writing her report, claiming that she had spun into one of the officers with her left shoulder, causing him to fall back and then quickly maneuver her body to get back on top of him after the officer punched her, of course. So here you have a 19-year-old Wonder Woman out here taking on police officers, police dogs, and still beating the shit out the police when she's the one in the hospital. Now, after finding out that she was unarmed, didn't have any weapons, the Bakersfield police spokesman still said the department had determined that the officers had exercised appropriate use of force on this young teenage girl. So now what they're saying is after they get out and beat us up or shoot us, God forbid, that now they're going to also charge us with the crime of resisting arrest. Now, instead of just asking for justice for Tatyana Hargrove, we need to be fucking taking justice. Now they are beating the shit out of our young boys, our young girls, our elderly women, elderly men. They are using extreme force on our women and making examples out of our men. And if we can't put aside petty differences when they are literally attacking our children, can we agree that we should be defending our children? No matter your belief system, no matter if you're a man or a woman, can we agree that they should not be attacking our children? So at what point are we going to say enough is enough? Because now they are mistaking our young women for grown-ass men who carry machetes. As a black man, it's no reason for me to sit up here and argue with a black woman, and there's no reason for her to sit up here and argue with me, because I understand where the problem came in at. And black men nor black women control policies, and a lot of those things are policy driven. Black women didn't create the welfare system, but this is exactly why we got to take control of our own areas. We're going to be waiting a long time, waiting on some justice. We can have our own cops there to make sure that we get justice, and not cops like that Sheriff David Clark dude, but actual black people who love being black and who care about justice, and control our own policies in our own neighborhoods and have our own justice system and our own economy, because it ain't no other way around it. And that's just the foundation. And if we continue to fail to protect the foundation, then the house will keep crumbling every single time. While we arguing with people who are grown men who can beat up little girls and then call you the criminals. And we sitting up here arguing with them, trying to convince them that we're not. Now, a lot of these people are getting to the point where they're tired of hiding how they feel and hiding who they are. And the difference between us and them, they call us the criminals and the thugs, but in actuality, they are the real gangsters. Because we still sitting up here forgiving them, and we haven't learned to protect ourselves yet, and we still arguing within each other. Meanwhile, they're doing whatever they have to do to survive. What are we going to do? Just sit here and take it? So, I want to hear your opinion on this story.
How could this be justified? You took my sister away from me.
A suburban man grieves the loss of his sister, who died today after being shot in the head by an off-duty Chicago police officer. Good evening. 22-year-old Rekia Boyd and a man were both shot early yesterday by an off-duty detective on the city's west side.
Well, tonight, family and friends who were at her side when she passed away today are calling for a federal investigation into her death. ABC 7's Ben Bradley spoke with the family members, and he joins us now with more on the story today. Ben.
Cheryl, Ron, Rekia Boyd's family says they were notified by police that she had been shot, but they have heard nothing since then. Neither an explanation of what happened nor a condolence call. They insist that she was an innocent bystander.
This young, beautiful girl, dead in the streets. Why?
Rekia Boyd's family brought 2 photos of her today. In the first, she is a smiling, happy 22-year-old woman. The second photo was snapped only a few hours ago, shortly before she died.
All we want to know is what happened.
Just after 1 o'clock yesterday morning, the police union says an off-duty detective rolled down his car window and asked a group of people gathered near Douglas Park to quiet down. In response, police say a 39-year-old man pointed a gun at the officer, who then drew his own weapon and fired. The bullets hit the alleged gunman in the hand. Rekia Boyd was also hit in the head as she stood nearby.
They said that the shooting is justified. But how is it justified when you got a young girl up there with a bullet hole in her head? What kind of justice is that?
Witnesses told ABC 7 yesterday that no one pulled a gun on the off-duty officer, and prosecutors only charged the man who police say had a gun with aggravated assault, a misdemeanor.
It's at least 60, 70 people sitting in the park. Ain't nobody got no gun. Everybody out there just hanging out. That's it.
Boyd's large family from South Suburban Dalton sees similarities between what happened to her and the case of the unarmed Florida teen shot by a neighborhood watch volunteer.
First you got Trayvon, now you got Rekia. Senseless violence. It didn't have to happen.
And within the last minute or two, we did get a response from the Chicago Police Department. They say they have now been in contact with Rekia Boyd's family, and the department offers its sincere condolences. The police department also points out that the Independent Police Review Authority is investigating the circumstances of this shooting. The state's attorney, though, Ron and Cheryl, did not respond when we asked, well, why would a person who allegedly has a gun only wind up with a misdemeanor charge that didn't involve the gun?
After a judge finds a police officer not guilty in the shooting death of an unarmed woman.
Eyewitness News reporter Diane Patthew live at the Criminal Courts building where the family of Rekia Boyd erupted in anger when that verdict was announced today. Diane?
That's right, Ron and Kathy. After just 4 days, a Cook County judge finds a Chicago police detective charged with killing an unarmed woman not guilty on all charges. A group of protesters hit the streets tonight, marching against Cook County Judge Dennis Porter's decision today. Chicago police detective Dante Servin walked out of court a free man. Outside, an emotional group of family, friends, and supporters of Rekia Boyd followed after him, shouting, "Murderer." Judge Porter found Servin not guilty on charges he fatally shot Boyd, who was unarmed.
The motion for a directed finding is granted. There is a finding of not guilty on all counts, and the defendant is discharged.
Servin, talking to cameras after the decision, maintained his innocence.
Any police officer especially would have reacted in the exact same manner that I reacted, and I'm glad to be alive. I saved my life that night.
In March of 2012, 22-year-old Rekia Boyd was walking to a store with 3 friends near Douglas Park. Prosecutors say that Servin, who was off duty, was upset over noise and told the group to quiet down. After exchanging words, Servin, sitting in his car, fired 5 shots over his shoulder. Boyd was hit in the head from behind and killed. Her boyfriend, Antonio Cross, was hit in the thumb.
He got out the car and shot my daughter. It was a quarter-size hole in the back of her head, and her brains were all over the alley.
In a statement released today, State's Attorney Anita Alvarez says, quote, "I am extremely disappointed by the judge's ruling. The State's Attorney's Office brought charges in this case in good faith and only after a very careful legal analysis of the evidence as well as the specific circumstances of this crime." And Ron, Chicago police tell us tonight that Detective Servin will remain stripped of his police powers until the Independent Police Review Authority finishes their investigation.
Outrage in Detroit this morning after a funeral for a 7-year-old girl who was shot and killed by police in a raid on her family's home. The whole time, a reality TV crew following the police was filming right outside. This death is raising questions about how much access reality TV crews should have to law enforcement and whether they might have played a role in this incident. Eric Hong has more.
With them. And so that's what we've come to do today. Just come and cry.
They came by the hundreds to mourn a child just 7 years old. Ayana Stanley Jones died 1 week ago as police hunted a murder suspect at the home where she slept. After lobbing a flash grenade into the house, police say an officer entered and collided with Ayana's grandmother, causing the officer's gun to go off. The bullet struck Ayana as she slept on a living room sofa. A camera crew had been shadowing officers that night, filming an episode of the A&E police reality show, The First 48. The incident is being investigated, but already Ayana's family has filed suit, challenging the police version of events.
They're supposed to be trained for this type of stuff. They came in here and killed my baby.
Ayana's family claims the video shows the fatal shot was fired intentionally by the officer from outside the house.
This type of activity by a police force is unacceptable in America.
The shooting has put a spotlight on police reality shows like Cops, and The First 48 can draw sizable ratings while giving police departments positive PR. But do these shows capture drama or create it?
The presence of cameras is going to influence a police officer the same way it would influence an ordinary person. You know, they're not immune to the lights and action and excitement, and they're going to hype up how they're acting.
A&E and its production partner ITV aren't commenting on the case. Their video now in the hands of investigators, hoping to make sense of tragedy. For Good Morning America, Eric Hong, ABC News.
Charges facing police officer Joseph Weekly have been officially dropped. Weekly is the Detroit cop who shot and killed Ayana Jones during a raid at her home. Weekly has been tried twice, and a jury failed to reach a verdict both times. He won't go through another trial. 7 Action News reporter Jennifer Bisram in court today and has more.
The case against Officer Joseph Weekly, who was charged in the death of little Ayana Jones, was dropped here this morning inside of a courtroom at the Frank Murphy Hall of Justice. After 2 mistrials, Judge Cynthia Hathaway has ruled there will not be a 3rd trial in the shooting death of 7-year-old Ayana Jones.
So if someone needs a scapegoat for what's happening here today, and what's happening here is justice, then put it on me.
All charges against Officer Joseph Weekly now officially dropped.
I'll grant the prosecution's motion, dismiss this case.
Officer Weekly was charged with careless discharge of his gun in connection to the death of little Ayana during a police raid inside of her family's home on the city's east side back in May of 2010 as crews were taping for the TV show The First 48. Officer Weekly maintained he accidentally pulled the trigger after Ayana's grandmother grabbed his gun, something she denies. The case gained national attention. Jurors were at a deadlock twice. The felony manslaughter charge was dismissed during the 2nd trial.
Can she wake up every morning and say that you dropped the charge that would have rendered justice for a little girl that can't have justice now?
Today's decision not sitting well with the family, who says they have to live with the fact their little girl was shot in the head while asleep on a couch.
All right, and we back on the forecast. So, down in Orlando, Florida, there's a young lady by the name of Aramis Ayala, the first black state attorney in the state of Florida. But she has been making headlines the last couple of months. Got a lot of people outraged down there in Florida. And recently, the Orlando Police Department put out a video of them pulling her over. So, let's just see what happens when they pulled her over.
You're gonna go? I'll stay here. You're good. What agency are you with?
I'm the state attorney.
Same thing. All right. Thank you. Your tag didn't come back. Never seen that before. I'm sorry? Yeah. We're good now.
So it was...
We ran the tag. I've never seen it before. A Florida tag. It's never come back to anything before. So that's the reason for the stop.
What was the tag run for?
I'm sorry?
What was the tag run for?
Oh, we run tags all the time, whether it's at traffic lights and that sort of stuff. That's how we figure out if, cars are stolen and that sort of thing. Also, the windows are really dark. I don't have a tint measurer, but that's another reason for the stop.
Do you guys have cards on you?
Yeah, 1 second. Actually, this isn't my car, but I can write my name down if you'd like.
Yeah, he put my name down.
What's your employee number? 157. Ready? There you are. Have a good day.
So we have the Florida state prosecutor pulled over because her tags were funny, whatever that means. Her tags were weird, not stolen or anything, just weird. And her tints may or may not have been too dark because he doesn't have the tint measurer. Now, luckily, since she's a state prosecutor, their whole attitude switched up immediately, from what they normally be acting like. But the thing about it is, this black woman down in Florida has been going through it just because she says she doesn't want to have the death penalty in Florida anymore. So now she's getting death threats, all kind of shit.
We
We end today's show in Florida, looking at the escalating battle over the death penalty. This month, Orange Osceola State Attorney Aramis Ayala announced her office will no longer seek the death penalty in any murder cases, including the case of Markeith Lloyd, who's accused of murdering his pregnant ex-girlfriend, as well as Orlando police officer Deborah Clayton. This is State Attorney Aramis Ayala.
I would like to address how my office will be handling death penalty cases going forward. In just over a year, Florida's death penalty statute has twice been ruled unconstitutional. While I currently do have discretion to pursue death sentences, I have determined that doing so is not in the best interest of this community or the best interest of justice. After careful review and consideration of the new statute, under my administration, I will not be seeking death penalty in cases handled in my office. Let me be very clear, however. I will continue to hold people who do harm to this community accountable for their actions. I will do so in a way that is sensible, fair, and just.
State Attorney Aramis Ayala's announcement sparked immediate backlash from the police union and the Florida Governor, Rick Scott, who called on Ayala to recuse herself from the Lloyd case. She refused. The governor then signed an executive order removing her from the case and reassigning it to another state attorney, Brad King. Ayala responded by filing a stay of the governor's order, arguing he does not have the right to remove her from the case. In the meantime, Ayala, who is the first African-American state attorney in Florida history, began receiving death threats, including from local government employees. The assistant finance director of the Seminole County Clerk of Court's office, Stan McCullers, wrote on Facebook, "Maybe she should get the death penalty. She should be tarred and feathered, if not hung from a tree," unquote. McCullers resigned after issuing the threats. The Orlando Sentinel reports that from 1877 to 1950, more than 331 black people were lynched by whites in Florida, the most lynchings per capita of any state in the country.
Now, they're mad because she doesn't want the death penalty because, of course, black people, and I'm guessing black males, are disproportionately put to death more than anybody else. And now in Florida, they have a case where somebody, a black man, murdered a cop, and they want the death penalty. Now, see, here's the difference when people like to talk about white privilege or not. Here is the difference. They say, well, we want you recused off the case. We say that shit all the time, but it doesn't happen. But they say they want her recused off the case, and they get her off of the case. Because since this man killed a cop, he must face the death penalty. And yeah, I say that our people need to start becoming lawyers and the DA and run for your local offices and become judges. That's not to say that, well, that will end racism and they can't be racist to you that way. No. But the problem comes in where we don't defend these people. We don't come and have their back. That should be all the black lawyers of America coming to have this black woman's back. We as a community should be coming to have her back. Like Judge Olu Stevens, we say all the time we want fair juries. And here we have a black man who says no all white juries, and they suspend him without pay. And we don't say nothing. We don't do nothing about it. We complain about the criminal justice system, but we didn't have his back. And we need to have this black woman's back, the first DA in Florida. Now, when I say we need to start running for office in our local districts, it means that we all have to be involved in the community. We all have to be involved in the situation. Where we have people that we know is for the community in positions of leadership, who are the ones who pick who the DA is, who are the ones who pick the police commissioner, the people who determine which policies get carried out in your particular area, your particular district. And we need to start producing police to be on the scene. The people, our own people in the police department. Believe me, the KKK infiltrates the police department. We need to start being in the police department to protect ourselves. Especially police in our own community, policing ourselves. And when we working with each other as a community, then we'll have more power over not letting somebody just come into our community and saying, well, if you don't put this black man to death who killed this white officer, or if you actually do charge an officer who kills a black male, then we will ruin your career. They shouldn't even have that ability to threaten us that way. There should be no way that they can end our careers. And that can only happen when it's all of us in for the betterment of our community. It can't be just one of us. You chop the head off a snake and the body is gone. They killed Martin Luther King, Malcolm X, and the civil rights movement was gone, taken over by feminism. And you mentally fuck up the community. None of this stuff matters without a collective effort. But if we working together to get people elected in our local areas, we'll have a better rapport with each other. We'll have better dialogue, better communication. If we working together to build our economics, we'll have more jobs and better communication. But the thing about Jim Crow, it forced our ancestors to become millionaires. It forced them to grow wealth. They just happened to come in and steal everything and burn everything else down. And during Jim Crow, we was forced to have a strong family unit. That's the only way we could have survived. But then they realized they were making a mistake and saying, well, we do want to integrate their money, but we do not want to have them living around us and with us. And we still want to exploit them. So they killed our leaders, took our movement, and gave it to generally white women. At some point, we have got to learn that the power is only within us, and we can only save ourselves. We are all we got. Nobody's going to help us. So, I want to hear what you got to say about this situation. And, of course, you can shout out black businesses.
NAACP President Robert Williams created headlines when he said, "Sometimes violence must be met with violence." Many asked why.
Because some of the people who had thought that it would be better to settle these cases violently, I had been able to persuade them that we should use the courts and go into the courts. So this thing had boomeranged, and I was being held responsible for having brought these cases to court. There was a trial where a Negro maid had been kicked down a flight of stairs by a white man, and that this man hadn't even bothered to come to his own trial, and that he had also been acquitted. And there was a demonstration as a result of this in the courtroom by the Negro women of the community. And they had approached me and had said, well, you said that you would see that these people would be punished because through the organization we would have competent counsel, and that if it hadn't been for you, that these people would have been punished. And they wanted to know what I would recommend that they do from then on. And so I recommended that they meet violence with violence, that Negroes must be prepared to repulse attacks, that they must be willing to fight, that they must be willing to die and to kill if necessary, that there was no law, no 14th Amendment to the United States Constitution of equal protection in the South, and that therefore they didn't have any deterrent, so they would have to create the deterrent force themselves by meeting violence with violence.
Perhaps I'm not the right person to talk about this case, but I feel it so deeply and so closely that I'll not rest until somebody pays for the death of Al Garrett, were he my brother. I'm angry about a number of things, not only about Edward Silver, the district attorney of this county, who has thus far failed to arrest the policeman who shot him to death, but I'm angry with a lot of my Negro brethren who don't even get angry about the fact that a poor man lies dead in his grave tonight.
Attorney Thomas Russell Jones deplores the slaying.
Killed as a result of a policeman's bullet fired at him while he was in custody in the 79th Precinct on Gates Avenue. This man, who had not even committed any crime, he failed to put a bottle or trash in a can. And this trigger-happy cop took him in, marched him into the police station. And there's some testimony that as Al Garrett was being marched to the police station, he suddenly put up his hands and said, "Oh, you're not going to do that to me," and marched holding his hands all the way to the precinct. Anybody who's been a Negro for long knows what that means. Any man here in this room knows what you do, why you do a thing like that.
We begin today with This Week. The Department of Justice announced it will not bring charges against a white police officer who shot and killed a black man in an Ohio Walmart. Beaver Creek police officer Sean Williams fired the fatal shot at 22-year-old John Crawford III, who was carrying a toy rifle around Walmart when another customer called the cops. RT Simone Del Rosario joins me from the newsroom with how Crawford's family is reacting to the news.
It's been nearly 3 years since Beaverton, Ohio police officers shot and killed a black man carrying an unloaded toy air rifle through the aisles of Walmart. Store surveillance video from August 5th, 2014 shows 22-year-old John Crawford III with the merchandise he picked up from a store shelf, walking around while talking on his phone. A customer called 911 claiming Crawford was loading the rifle and pointing it at children. According to authorities, the video proves otherwise. But that call is what prompted Beaverton police officers to storm in, shooting and killing Crawford in the store. This week, the Department of Justice announced it will not bring federal charges against the white police officer, Sean Williams, who shot and killed Crawford, a decision that family attorney Michael Wright calls disappointing.
If this is not a case where officers should be prosecuted, then I don't know under what set of facts will the Department of Justice prosecute any police officer. You have a young man that was walking in a retail store in Walmart with a product that was sold by that store, and minutes later he was shot and killed.
According to the Department of Justice and U.S. Attorney's Office, investigators found insufficient evidence to pursue charges against Williams, stating it would be required both to disprove his stated reason for the shooting, that he was in fear of death or serious bodily injury, and to establish that Williams instead acted with the specific intent to violate Crawford's civil rights. Police say Crawford did not obey commands to drop what later turned out to be an airsoft rifle. Crawford's family says he was shot on sight and that any command from police came simultaneously with gunshots. The family believes if police simply stopped to assess the situation, the son and father of two would still be alive. But months after the shooting, a grand jury investigation found the two officers involved were justified in their actions.
All right, for Mr. Simpson. All right, Mr. Simpson, in addition to the $25 administrative assessment and the $150 DNA fee, I'm going to sentence you as follows. That's 6. Count 1, conspiracy to commit a crime, 1 year in the county jail. Count 2, conspiracy to commit kidnapping, a minimum term of 12 months, max term of 48 months in the Nevada Department of Corrections. Count 2 to run concurrent to count 1. Count 3, conspiracy to commit robbery, a minimum term of 12 months, max term of 48 months in the Nevada Department of Corrections. Count 3 to run concurrent to count 2. Count 4, burglary while in possession of a deadly weapon, a minimum term of 26 months, a maximum term of 120 months in the Nevada Department of Corrections. Count 4 to run concurrent to count 3. Count 5, the first-degree kidnapping with use of a deadly weapon, a fixed term of 15 years, parole eligibility beginning after 5 years, with a consecutive 12 to 72. That'll run concurrent to count 4. Count 6, first-degree kidnapping with use of a deadly weapon, a fixed term of 15 years with parole eligibility beginning after 5 years, with a consecutive 12 to 72. That'll run concurrent to count 5. Robbery with use of a deadly weapon, a minimum term of 60 months, a maximum term of 180 months in the Nevada Department of Corrections with a consecutive 12 to 72, and again the enhancement because of the increased harm that the gun posed. Count 7 will run concurrent to Count 6. Count 8, robbery with use of a deadly weapon, a minimum term of 60 months, a max term of 180 months in the Nevada Department of Corrections with a consecutive 12 to 72. That'll be concurrent to Count 7. The assault with a deadly weapon, a minimum term of 18 months, a max term of 72 months in the Nevada Department of Corrections. That'll run consecutive to Count 8. Count 10, a minimum term of 18 months, a max term of 72 months in the Nevada Department of Corrections. Count 10 will run consecutive to Count 9. Credit for time served is 64 days. That concludes today's sentencing.
All right, and we back on the forecast, and you know we gotta be careful out here. They're attacking our children. Don't matter, fucking 5-year-old, 87-year-old, man, woman. It doesn't matter at this point. And if we try to fight with them and do it their way that they tell us to do it, they're just gonna get you kicked off the fucking bench or removed off the case. At some point, we just have to fight for ourselves and with ourselves, having each other's back. So, as always, man, we have got to start standing for something, or we're going to keep falling for anything.